Hello, welcome. Happy Thursday. Hope you're having a wonderful week. I'm excited to be here with you today again as we go through the process of the MBA application journey. I know some of you are going through interview preparations and have received interview invites. So for those of you, congratulations. Hopefully all of those are going well in your timing, in getting the right stories in, and making sure that you ace those interviews. Today we're going to talk about essentially when to start. What do you need to know now? Essentially, if you're starting your MBA application journey, this is for round one. I can't believe it. It's only January, but round one timing comes very quickly. So starting early is always knowing it first and foremost, what's expected, what you need to do, and then planning it out early enough that gives you the time for reflection, to do your work in a comfortable, as much as it can be, space. It's essential essentially to be successful in the application cycle that is coming. So today I'm going to be talking about those elements in terms of what you need to be doing now, taking into account that some of you are considering round one in September, and some others, depending on when you're watching this replay, may be considering round two in January of next year. The preparation does require a little bit of time, and some components are not dependent on you and your availability. They are dependent on other people's availability. So you must take that into account as you're planning out what is to come in the new cycle. So let's just step back for a moment and talk through, first and foremost, introducing myself. For those of you who are new to our channel, I am the founder of SIA Admissions. We focus on one-on-one coaching, tailored coaching, supporting applicants through the entire journey. We do have a very rigorous process in terms of making sure that you're putting your best foot forward and leaving no stones unturned in terms of the opportunities to present your best case to the admission teams. We very much focus on the individual and work with a limited number of applicants every year to make sure that we are able to give them the personalized approach that they're looking for in this journey. And the only way, we believe at least, that the only way that you differentiate yourself is to take the time to get to know yourself and get to know your experiences and be able to communicate those in a way that resonate with business goals and, of course, what their criteria are. As I mentioned, I'm the founder. I have started SIA in 2017. We are growing, and we have another coach that has joined the team. So we're very excited for this growth. And we have a success rate, pretty strong success rate in terms of supporting applicants in gaining admission to top 20 business schools. That's our main focus in terms of where we are coaching, what are the target schools that we're coaching clients or applicants through. So if you want to discuss how we can support you, definitely reach out, and we can have a discovery call where we get to know a lot about your background, what are you looking for, and of course ways that we support that can be valuable to your plans for this coming cycle. I see someone has joined as welcome. I won't mention names, but welcome. You know who you wrote the comments, so thank you for being here. I am looking on my right because I do have another screen where I'm monitoring the comments. So if you have any questions that you want to ask live, please feel free to ask them. We have received some questions through the registration form that we will be answering after the presentation. But if you have questions as I'm presenting different components, please write them in the chat of whichever platform you're joining us from. We won't show your name on the screen, so don't worry. Anyone who watches the replay will only hear your question. And this way you get to get specific advice, specific guidance during this session. So today what I want to focus on is talking about some application trends that we're seeing. Obviously, the application cycle is still ongoing. We're we just submitted applications for round 2, and the interview preparation, as I mentioned, has just begun. But there are some trends that we're seeing in terms of, business schools, and I can talk through a bit of that, as well as, of course, some trends in terms of employment. And we'll talk just briefly, I'll touch on that. Last week, I had a session on opportunities, so you can definitely go back and watch the replay on our YouTube channel. Then we're going to talk about the early preparation, so what you should be doing now, how you should be thinking about your MBA journey, and then phases of the application development, so how you have to think through the mapping of this period of time, and then how a coach can support you in this journey altogether. Q&As obviously are left at the end, but I can definitely, as I mentioned, will be answering questions that come in. So I see already a question has come in the chat. So the question reads, is it possible to apply to top 20 business school with 1 year of experience at the time of application? At the time of application with 1 year experience, yes, it is possible, because they calculate your experience, the number of years of experience based on the time that you start. So that would mean that you would have 2 years of experience by the time you start your MBA journey. I would discourage it. However, it's very rare that applicants are able to succeed in getting a T20, top 20 business school admission with only 1 year of experience. It's not impossible, but the probability is lower. So I would say maybe, you can use this time to develop your profile, look for ways that you can strengthen, showcase leadership, showcase impact. And I know we live in an age where we don't want to wait, but sometimes it's the opportunity is to be a part of a program that is really strong, that is going to open doors for you, not just immediately post MBA, but long term is worth the wait, essentially. So keep that in mind as you're thinking through this process. But again, we would be happy to discuss what the optionalities are for you and how we can support you in that regard. All right, let's get started. So let's talk a little bit about the application trends. I know that you are all curious about what's going on, and I'm sure you are reading forums and blogs and all sorts of different things about the trends that we're seeing. We are, whether happy or not, we are seeing an increase in application volume. Schools are reporting, even though these are unofficial reports in terms of, we don't have the employment reports that are officially communicated. The schools are seeing an increase in application volume, which obviously means higher competition. It's very important to be able to showcase that the differentiation factors that you bring to the table from the next person. Obviously, you have no idea who else is applying in the same round you are applying. So what's important for you as an applicant is to look at your candidacy at this point and determine how different are you from your peers, how different are your experiences from your peers, and how can you showcase that in an application that will help you stand out. Admission committees are actually putting a lot more attention on demonstrating fit, which means applications that are somewhat very macro level are going out of favor, especially when there are a lot of applicants applying and they can have their pick in terms of who they're looking to accept into the program. They are looking for transferable skills, leadership skills, of course, as they have done in the past, but they are looking for individuals who've had a diversity of experiences and exposures that are in alignment with the trends of employment trends that are happening. I'm sure you have seen the job reports the employment reports that have been released by a lot of the top schools, and we're seeing quite a substantial decrease in number of possibilities for employment. And those can be variable components. Obviously, there is, job opportunities first and foremost, but also sometimes I have had conversations with people where they just say no to opportunities because it doesn't align exactly with what they want for that post-MBA. So they're taking the risk in making those decisions. Obviously, there's others who are applying and still not getting anything. So there's a variety of different reasons. So don't take the numbers and say, oh, everyone here has really been looking and have been rejected the entire time. But take those numbers with a grain of salt, recognizing that admission teams are looking at candidates' profile now and saying, well, what skills do you have that are going to make employers want to say yes to you? So even employers are looking for more than just the standards, right? And which means that if the admission team are looking at more than just the standards in the MBA candidates, they're doing it for a reason, which is obviously to bring different perspectives to the classroom discussions, but also to make sure that you have opportunities post-degree. Investing $250,000 in your MBA, it is not a investment that you typically make. It's not like just buying a cup of coffee that is expensive, but it's a treat. This is a different kind of investment, and you want to make sure that you get the ROI on that investment. We are also seeing an increase in female applicants, as well as first-generation college students that are applying. So diversity is something that they're looking for. You have probably also heard a lot of talk about AI in terms of should you use it? Should you report that you are using AI? That is a conversation that is ongoing. We are obviously still navigating what does that look like. But what has been very evident is that admission teams are looking for authentic writing. They're looking for reflection, and especially when you have the tools such as AI to support you, they are looking for deeper reflection, stronger writings that go beyond something that a digital tool can produce. And like I said, job opportunities are something that we need to navigate as things are happening with our politics and opportunities. But last week I did talk about some trends that are showing up in terms of what this next phase is going to look like, and definitely bodes well for those of you who are interested in real estate. So let's continue. So a lot of you may be thinking at this point, if you are considering applying in the new application cycle in the coming year, which is 2025-2026 application cycle, which starts with September round one deadlines, you may be thinking that, okay, this is quite early to get started at that point. We have about 8 months at this point left. And I will tell you that it's actually not early to start at this point. And the reason being is that there is a lot of self-reflection, a lot of research that is required in order for you to put together an authentic application. And I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation that you are going to need to have conversations with other individuals, and that means you have to account for their availability and not when you're available, right? And what do I mean by that? Typically, those who are having conversations at this point or who are thinking about applying at this point are doing a few things. They're studying for the test, so either the GMAT or the GRE. They are conducting research on the schools, and they're having their goals structured. And this is really important because, of course, you have to consider every conversation that you have with students, admissions, how you're presenting yourself is essentially how they're going to remember you. So if you're presenting yourself as someone who is still unsure, well, they will remember you as someone who is not sure what they want to do. Whereas if you present yourself knowing what you want, knowing why are you there, and knowing that you are taking your time to understand the program better, that's obviously going to have a very different impression from those who you are speaking with. So if you take that into account and take the fact that we are in January right now, the students will be available and typically are very responsive up until the end of March. After that, the responses, and I'm talking here from years of experience going through this process. After March, students rather at your target schools will not be as responsive as you anticipate, and that will go until September. And the reason is they have final exams that they're going through. Others are graduating. Then they have their internships. Some of them are taking time off during the summer to travel, do whatever they're planning to do. So their availability will be less they'll be less responsive, which means you won't have the details that you need for an authentic application. So starting this process early, recognizing what is it that you want, right? How is it you're going to present yourself to the admission team? What are your goals? And then recognizing that is a prerequisite to having conversations with representatives of your target schools, because you need to know what kind of questions you're going to ask them, what details you need from them in order for you to write compelling applications, right? By also starting early, you have the time to reflect, the flexibility to reflect deeper into what you want to do, what experiences do you bring to the table, and really continue to polish those materials that you're putting forth. This means you have the time to actually craft or support rather the recommenders in crafting really strong letters of recommendation. You take into account obviously their availability as well. If they're parents, they may be taking summers off, like they may be doing some kind of travel. So you are really part of this is you're at the mercy of other people as well. And of course, if you need to retake your GMAT, GRE, you will need to plan for that as well and not leave it obviously until last moment. Early applicants, also for those who are thinking about applying in round one and not quite sure yet, I do encourage, if you're thinking about applying this application cycle, I do encourage applying in round one, because the roster is fresh, meaning there's no other applicants other than the pool of applicants that you're applying with that you're competing against, which means obviously you have a higher chance of being accepted as an early starter in the process, and obviously higher chances of securing scholarships. Now, I don't mean that you just put an application that is not strong application. I mean, if you're able to put together really strong application, have a competitive test score, then you're it pays to apply early and secure your seat early on. And if things don't go according to plan, you also have round two that you can consider applying to, which obviously will help with this regard as well. So timing, typically applicants that are going through this process start 6 to 12 months, so 6 months to a year in advance of the target deadline to start the preparation process. Obviously, this is recognizing the fact that you are applying while having a full-time job, while having other responsibilities, so you have to navigate all of these components in tandem. The part of the process I mentioned earlier is really getting to understand the programs. While they all seem very similar, they are quite different. They have different specializations, they have different support network, they have different cultures, and a part of your job as an applicant is to understand those nuances, and if you choose to apply, to be able to communicate those nuances to the admission team. I know everyone wants to apply to Harvard and Stanford, but those, the probability of that is quite low, and you do have to consider where else are you going to apply that will allow you the opportunities you're looking for in order to get to your goals. And your goals obviously are really important in clarifying those details to be able to move forward. You are going to be doing a lot of networking. You start this process now, so you get to practice before you go to business school. You start your networking, have conversations with alumni, have conversations with current students, recent grads, and admission officers. Plan to attend events. If you are locally, do also plan to visit campus, and do not plan to visit campus in the summertime. Campus should be visited when classes are in session, so you can really get a sense of what the experience will be like, and plan it with the admission team so that perhaps you can go and attend the class and see how that experience looks like. And, think if you can imagine yourself being a student there, how would that feel like for you? Let's talk through the phases of your application process. So the first phase is research. And I would say if you know you want an MBA, obviously that's great. But you also need to know why do you want an MBA, where you're looking to go, and then conduct poignant research. One of the things that I see applicants one of the mistakes I see applicants making is that they start their research before they do their reflection. And I highly discourage that, because what happens every single time is applicants are swayed by the marketing tools that the business schools are putting on their website. It's really important that you are selfish in this process. You really want to know what is it that you want, and then find the thing that you want based on what the schools offer. So first reflect internally, what is it that you want, and then look for those opportunities in different business schools. Some you will see that you have not even thought about those schools but once you have done that reflection and have delved deeper into the program, you realize that that is a school that is actually a really wonderful school to apply to, because it will offer the things that you are looking for. And other times it's the opposite, where you think that you want to apply somewhere and then you realize that that's really not the place for you. So taking the time to understand what is it that you want and then conducting research is obviously really important. Then you want to build a strategy, strong applications, obviously, that tie together your background, your goals, and your MBA aspirations. I really encourage applicants, when they go through this process, to recognize that everything that you put forth is in relation to your goals. Even your resume is in relation to your goals. So what experiences do you have that have transferable qualities that will allow you to be a strong candidate, first in contributing business school, but second in enabling you to get the professional opportunities that you're looking for out of an MBA. So take those components into consideration. And then when it comes to essays, particularly essays that are goal directed, it's all about the goals, right? It's not about what you want to contribute. It's really about what you want to take. At this point, it's about you taking what the school has to offer for you, which means, again, being selfish. But there are also opportunities for you to showcase how you're going to be a part of the community. How are you going to engage with them? You are not just there to take, you are there to also give, right? Because you are taking what others are giving, and therefore you have to give as well. So there's an opportunity for you to actually reflect and communicate this effectively in a way that doesn't cause confusion for the reader of your materials, whether that's letters of recommendation, whether that's your essays, whether that's your resume, and any other component. Then we want, phase 3 is the execution. Obviously, once you have the strategy, once you have done your research, then you have the strategy. How are you going to put all this together? Now it's the execution in terms of, okay, I need to actually put pen to paper, or the proverbial pen to paper. How am I going to do this, right? And recognize that I don't know of many, New York Times bestsellers who are applying to business school, and even them will tell you that they've done many drafts in anything that they have written that became a New York Times bestseller. Now, obviously, you're not applying to business school with a New York Times bestseller, essay. But the point here is that no one will write a one-time essay that is going to be compelling enough for someone to read it and truly understand what your values are. And I say this because this is the opportunity for you to actually plan out your execution strategy, which is making sure that you give yourself enough time to draft, continue to edit until the product is as good as it can be in terms of capturing your experiences, your goals, and everything that you'll bring to the table. And then obviously the refinement. Seeking feedback is actually quite important in this process, whether you're working with a coach or not. You have all your stories in your mind. You are filling in a lot of the gaps that are evident for anyone reading your application, but you may miss because those are your lived experiences. So it's actually quite important to get feedback early, so you have time to actually refine it. I can't tell you how many times I speak to applicants that we're closer to the deadline of the application, and they share with me their drafts, and that I haven't seen before, right? So this is a first time draft reading, and they think they're close to the finish line. And there are just so many glaring gaps that I see as a reader that, I would have wanted to have them start early to refine those so that they can present their best selves to the admission team. And then, of course, once you're done, you always have to assume that you are going to be getting interviews. You've put a lot of effort in this process. Interview preparation must start early, because when you're invited to interview, you typically have a 2-week window. And oftentimes, interviews do come in at the same time for many different schools, which means that you may have 2 to 3 interviews in a week. And that is a lot of work to be done in order to, be successful. So I always encourage applicants to start the interview preparation before they even have an interview invite, so that they can, start the process of understanding how the interview is different from the essay writing. Your essay writing is one format of communication. Your interview is about engaging with another person and being able to have very solid, fluid conversations. So I do encourage that you start that process early. And if you're in the interview process at this time, you're waiting for interviews, definitely take this into account as you are putting together, as you're waiting for interviews and making sure that you are going to be successful in that process. And in terms of what a coach can do for you, I do have a few sessions on coaches, so you can definitely go watch those in more details, whereas specifically the entire session is about what you can expect with a coach and what you should be focused on when you find the coach. But macro level speaking, the coach is going to give you personalized guidance, especially if you're working with a coach one-on-one. That is one of the services that we offer, and there are other coaches obviously who offer the one-on-one guidance, and they're going to help you. The job of the coach is to help you tailor your story that aligns with the program's expectations. So the coaches do need to know what the schools are looking for and be able to tell a story. They're not just there to help you tell a story, because obviously storytelling is, you're not writing a short story. This is about your MBA application. The coach is also going to help you have a structured approach. So break down the application processes, what you need to do. And especially if you're going through this process for the first time, you may not entirely know what the process entails. And obviously, the coach can guide you through that process and give you macro level approaches, and then also steps along the way. Obviously, essays and resume. This is oftentimes when anyone thinks of a coach, this is the first thing they think about, and not just not the planning, but the planning is the first thing before you actually even start writing. And the coach is going to make sure that you are highlighting achievement, leadership, and impact. So particularly your resume is going to be very much an achievement-oriented, impact-focused resume. Your essays are going to communicate leadership. They're going to communicate, transferable skills, experiences that will be of value to the communities that you are looking to be a part of. And then a coach is also going to help you with mock preparations for interviews. I know here at SIA we have a lot of those, and it's we go through a number of different questions and also help you craft and refine your narrative in terms of how you're presenting yourself, how you're presenting your experiences in a way that is compelling and not a boring interview. You have to be, mindful of who is conducting the interviews, because they are going through interview after interview, and you do want to make sure that you stand out, because it's a process of your communication. So if you are applying to business school and you're applying to business school for the next application cycle, I do encourage you to start as early as possible the preparation process. If you are still not sure if you want to work with a coach or not, I would especially highlight starting this process early, so that you can get a sense of you know and what you need knowledge around. And I say this because I have conversations with applicants who start the process on their own, and then they realize that they can't do it on their own, and then they're looking for a coach, and their optionality is limited because, of course, the coaches are going to have their rosters get filled up as well. So start the process early. If you're testing to see if you're going in the right direction, before you make an investment with a coach, definitely do that now, so you can understand where your weaknesses lie and what kind of support you're looking for, which will allow you to find the coach that you're looking for, that you need for a successful MBA application journey. All right, I think we are out of time at this point. I don't see any new questions that have come in, but I did want to answer a question that has come through the portal. The registration form. So just give me a moment. Okay, so what is the right time to get our letters of recommendation done, even before starting around on an application process? This question, I wanted to communicate that you obviously want to have the conversations sooner rather than later, unless it's going to jeopardize opportunities for you. So that is something you want to be mindful of, and obviously recognize only you can answer that question. And when you start the process, you do want to start reflecting early. So I would say, obviously, the letters of recommendation shouldn't start before you start your goals, before you start understanding what you want to do, which schools you're applying to, because obviously that is prerequisite. Your letters of recommendation are responding to a particular question that the schools you're applying to is answering. You need to know what your goals are, because you want to help your recommenders communicate values and experiences that are in alignment with those goals. So obviously you need to do a lot of the work beforehand. So you should start having conversations, thinking about experiences, definitely at the latest around April, to have those, to get that material ready and moving. But again, all this other stuff needs to happen before you start writing your letters of recommendation. And then obviously essays start after the new essay formats are released. But there's a lot of different pieces. Again, your resume needs to be worked through, your LinkedIn profile needs to be worked through, your research needs to be done, you need to narrow down your schools, you need to do your GMAT and your GRE, and those are obviously school agnostic pieces before you dive into school specific materials. So hopefully that was helpful. Again, if you want to have a conversation with us at C Admissions to talk about your MBA aspirations and how we can support you, I invite you to reach out, schedule a consultation. There's no obligation to buy anything. It's really to get a sense of what you're looking for, and if there's a match in terms of working together and in supporting this journey for you. I will see you next week. We're switching to interview preparation, so we're coming back to applicants who are applying this year, and talking through how you need to prepare to make sure that you have a successful interview season. Looking forward to seeing you next week. And if you're interested in the topic, definitely register so we can remind you of the Sessions live event. But if you are not able to attend, definitely also subscribe to our channels so that you can be notified when new events come up, so you can watch them at your own leisure. So thank you again for being here, and I look forward to seeing you next week.